Okay, so basically the title of this talk is how can ChatGPT help you do HPC? And actually when this title was proposed by the user council, I thought, okay, this is going to be an interesting one. So yeah, let's see where it leads. Let's just put it that way. Okay, so this will at some point be a EuroCC training actually, so that is already the repository which is there. You can find the slides, you can find code, you can find example conversations and so on. And of course, link with us on LinkedIn. So basically, what is, if I were to ask you for your own domain, can ChatGPT help you? My guess is probably that your answer would be something along the lines of maybe for trivial things, but yeah, I guess you would not be that enthusiastic. Maybe let me really ask the question. So if someone is really convinced that ChatGPT can do something non-trivial in his specific scientific domain, please raise your hand. Very little enthusiasm, I think. So, okay. So that was also my reaction when I thought, well, okay, what can ChatGPT do for HPC? Okay. So let's try and answer that question a little bit. So one of the things, and I'm actually starting with the conclusions here because I want to repeat them twice, now and at the end. So basically, what is an AI tool? Yeah, it's just a tool. And like any tool, you need to know how to wield it effectively. If you do not know that, that tool will be utterly, completely useless to you. Bottom line, period, final point. Okay, so basically the question is, can you use an artificial intelligence chatbot, whatever, without knowing anything about the domain? Well, in my opinion, no. The key to using such tools effectively is your knowledge of your domain. If you don't know your domain, you're going to fail miserably. That's it. So domain knowledge is really the key. So I would like to go through a couple of use cases to illustrate a few points. One of them is fairly straightforward, question answering. In a way, if you like, a Google search on steroids. That's what it is. Okay. Another is much more interesting, especially in this context. Can you use it for code generation? Do we still need programmers, or do we throw them out together with the people who do the cash registers at the supermarket? Something I don't like is writing documentation. Can ChatGPT do that for me? I don't know. Please write my manual. Software contains bugs. Can ChatGPT help me to debug it? Here's the error, here's the code, just figure it out. What's going on? Give me some suggestions. And then data exploration. I've got a bunch of data, I have no clue, but I need to get a hold on my data. What does it contain? What are the trends in there? Can ChatGPT help me? So those are a few use cases. So let's start with the more trivial ones. Just conversations, basically question answering conversations. And essentially, for instance, this question here. Can you give me the steps to construct a robust Slurm, so scheduler script, in order to run my jobs with certain site conditions and so on? As it turns out, that works pretty well. You get some very reasonable advice. For instance, ChatGPT realizes there is something like a module system on most clusters, so it will give you quite good results. Let me perhaps try and click this thing. So this is the conversation, and as you can see, I get a listing of very reasonable things. This is my job script, number of tasks, etc., etc. So it gives me the steps, module loading. It uses srun. Yeah, I'm not so happy with srun, but okay. It even tells me to make it executable. Well, okay, it's not necessary, but okay, why not? Then It tells you even how to submit it. Okay, seems all quite reasonable. And if I'm not happy with something, and I thought I continued this conversation, so actually I asked it, okay, I'm not happy with srun. Please replace it by MPI run. For OpenMPI, please. And it did it in a very satisfactory way. So, yeah, that is already something. Then, a bit more interesting, what is always a good idea when you have a conversation is don't take things at face value in various respects. So if you're not happy with an answer, just don't abort the session and say, yeah, okay, ChatGPT is stupid. That's not really the constructive approach. Do a conversation. Ask it to change things. Even ask it whether it's sure of its answer. And sometimes the answer is in fact no. So, for instance, I asked it because I wanted to do a small toy simulation, and yeah, I really couldn't remember the Lennard-Jones potential. I couldn't remember the name even. But yeah, I know what it looks like. It's somewhere a power of 12, somewhere a power of 6, you subtract, etc., etc. But I really didn't remember the details. So I asked, okay, can you give me Lennard-Jones, can you give me the formula for the potential between, potential energy between molecules, blah, blah, blah. Came up with Lennard-Jones potential, gave me a lot of explanation, very nice. And then I said, well, okay, but now actually okay, that's nice that you give me the potential, that's what I asked for, but please give me the force. Okay, I get a reply. Unfortunately, it was, I don't remember, either purely attractive or purely repulsive. So at first sight, I saw that something was wrong. Okay, now I could have stopped and said, okay, ChatGPT is stupid, let's abandon it, let's not go there anymore. But I said, well, okay, are you really sure? Because I think there is an error in the sign. ChatGPT is thinking and indeed spits out the correct formula with apologies that it actually was mistaken. So again, go into a conversation with it. And also, of course, know your domain. Because at first glance, I could see that the formula which it came up with for the force was incorrect. The force cannot be only repulsive or attractive. I mean, that's the point of the Lennard-Jones potential, so it's impossible. But again, know your domain. If you don't, well, you get a very interesting simulation, but not what you really, really want. Okay, of course there is the concept of hallucinations, which you might have heard about already. So I asked ChatGPT about the M4 macroprocessor. Okay, if you Google that, there is not that much information out there. And what I wanted was some substitution mechanism for strings, which was not entirely trivial. Okay, it really wasn't rocket science, but it was not entirely trivial. The solution it came up with was, how to phrase this, rather outlandish. So, to me it was really clear that that could not be a proper solution. It would have worked, that's beyond discussion, but no, that could not be correct. So, I tried a little bit, but no, I didn't get a really proper answer. Okay, so I decided, okay, go to the manual of M4, it's 4 pages long, so yeah, that's kind of easy. And I found the answer I was actually looking for. But the message here is, be careful. If you are in a niche which is really, really small, that of course means that ChatGPT has little information and is likely not going to give you the right answer. It will give you something, but it starts hallucinating, so generating text which does not really have much meaning. And that is of course pretty dangerous, so you need to know your domain. Second use case, broad use case, generation of code. So for instance, one of the things which is really, really boring, which is also really, really error prone, is handling of command line arguments. No one likes it, we all have to do it, it's not fun. Yeah, you start with 1, then there are 2, then there are 500, I mean, boring, okay. One of the other things which we really, really hate is doing error handling. Our scripts don't crash. No, I mean, they never crash. Our code never crashes. So why would we do error handling? Yeah, exactly. Writing documentation, yeah, that's a dream. I mean, everyone knows it should be done. Writing unit tests, yeah, right. So all of that is boring. All of that is something that we are going to do one day. Yeah. Okay, so all of this is boring. All of this is error prone. Okay, let's ask ChatGPT to do it. And in fact, it does quite a reasonable job. So this is a screencast, which actually, what do? Basically, I write a lot of comments. So this is not ChatGPT, this is GitHub Copilot. I write a lot of comments. In those comments, I specify what the script is supposed to do. I specify which command line arguments are expected. Okay, are expected, what the default values are, etc., etc. And then ChatGPT, and I tell it, okay, I want you to use this particular library for command line handling for handling command line arguments, and it really comes up with very good code. I can't improve on it. It's really perfect. And to do the non-trivial thing, because okay, now you're thinking, okay, Python, yeah, argparse, everyone knows that, pretty trivial. Okay, do it for Boost in C++. Perfect code, I have no objections. And it takes me the time to write documentation which I would have to write anyway. Easy. Okay, let's skip this because this takes like forever. Feel free to have a look at it, it's quite interesting to do. So basically, another example, so you can work with multiple files. It will realize if you have your main function that this is the one the file which actually handles the logic about command line arguments. So that's quite convenient. So one of the things I did was, okay, here's my function. This is the implementation. Tell me what can go wrong. Which are the edge cases? Which are the corner cases? What should I do to handle them? Came up with very nice results. Quite useful as well, because that again is pretty boring. And then, okay, let's also let it generate some unit tests. Why not? They were good, really. Not complete, okay, but quite good. All right, refactoring, quite impressive. I had a class, and the constructor of that class started to take on more and more parameters, which is a bad sign. Bad code smell, you don't want that. So, okay, design patterns to rescue. So I said, well, okay, here's my code. That's the definition of my class. Now, using the builder design pattern, generate me a builder class. Perfect. Took me 2 minutes. If I have to do it by hand, it takes much longer. So basically boilerplate code, very easy. Writing documentation. Okay, so I went from the documentation to the code, but of course you won't have generated code for everything, rest assured. There is still a lot to do for you as a domain programmer, but given the signature and the return statements, etc. of your function, ChatGPT comes up with a very reasonable skeleton for your documentation. Fill in some of the semantics, give an extra example, and you're done. Again, quite easy. Okay, debugging. Also a nice one. So basically, it terminates with a segmentation fault. We've all been there, whatever. So basically, easy to fix. Just feed it to ChatGPT, source code plus error message, and it will tell you, okay, this is a segmentation fault, and what you're doing wrong is addressing an array. Okay, please give me suggestions of how to fix the error. It comes up with quite impressive suggestions. Quite good. Okay, so data analysis. Also quite interesting example. Real world dataset, GPI, peace index, global peace index or something. It's there somewhere. Yeah, global peace index. Yeah, should read my slides. So that's a real world dataset. Okay. It's a CSV file. No, it's not. It's an Excel file exported to CSV because ChatGPT can't deal with Excel files. Anyway, can deal with CSV. So this is my query. Give me a table with 3 columns and ignore missing values. And then I can start interrogating my data. Which country was most peaceful year by year? Please give me a table. It will do so. Make me a plot of the history of the peace index for this particular country or for this set of countries. I'm not writing any code, 0, and I can ask, give me the code which will generate that particular result which you just showed me. So basically, Jupyter Notebooks on steroids, you don't have to type the code, stuff happens. Quite convenient. Also, an interesting application, I've got a paper with a plot in it. Don't have the data. Okay. Screenshot or scan, feed it to ChatGPT and ask, okay, this is my code. Now please do me a linear regression on this. Okay. It actually does quite good. Quite well. So basically the actual model I've put there. Then if you do really a proper quadratic fit using SciPy, you get that result. As you can see, not bad. Okay, if you feed the thing as a plot, so not as data, but really as an image to ChatGPT, that's what it comes up with. If you look at the first order term and the second order term, it's really pretty good. Actually, it's for the leading term, it's even more accurate than SciPy. So it subsampled the data, but it allowed me to explore that data without having to try and enter it manually. ChatGPT just interpreted the plot correctly. Okay, conclusions. So basically, the bottom line is always, and will remain for the foreseeable future, that you need to know what you're doing. You need to know your own domain. So using such tools outside of a domain you have knowledge in is dangerous. Bottom line, period, end of story. So it is, though, really a very valuable tool in my opinion. It's been a while since I've written code to handle command line arguments. It's been a while since I've written a complete script to analyze data. Most of it is now just generated by GitHub Copilot. And in my opinion, this is just the beginning. And I'm very curious to see where that's going. Okay, so if you're interested in the details, if you're interested in the conversations, they're all shared. You can find them in the slides, so typically you can see almost everything, with the exception of anything that's image-based, because ChatGPT doesn't allow you to share those conversations. I leave it to an exercise to the audience to figure out why they do that, but okay. So, in my opinion, it's a very useful tool. By the way, and that's the closing thing, all the graphics which you have seen are generated by DALL-E 3 through ChatGPT. It's worth investing in ChatGPT 4 because it's way better, and everything here was ChatGPT 4. So I have a paid account, and that's worth investing in. ChatGPT 3.5 won't do many of the things I've shown you here. Okay.